Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the deadliest sweeper in the Great League Remix Cup, and that is Zapdos. The Great League Remix Cup is like the Open Great League, but with 20 Pokemon listed here banned from play. And there's some very commonly used Pokemon on this list like Lantern, so this meta should look a bit different to the Open Great League. And in this Remix Cup meta, to me, there's no Pokemon more deadly with an energy or shield advantage than Zapdos. It's extremely frail, so it's very, very difficult to use, but my goodness, this thing is incredibly powerful. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out some Great League Remix Practice Cup battles with members of my Discord. Hopping into the first match here, I lead Diggersby into Skarmory. I have two better responses in the back, so I save switch into my Poliwrath, and my opponent actually does the same. They save switch into their own Poliwrath as well. I'm going to be firing off this Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to be shielded up by my opponent. I continue to farm, trying to make it to another Icy Wind. I get there, but I do lose charge attack priority. My opponent is going to be able to pick up the knockout, but this should set up a very nice farm down for the Zapdos. Zapdos just doesn't get the farm down. Actual 1 HP on the Poliwrath as it's going to get a debuff. In the back, it's Cresselia. I'm going to bank a massive amount of energy on that Zapdos and send in the Diggersby. My opponent sends back in the Skarmory, and with energy on the Zapdos, this game might be winnable. I am running Fire Punch on the Diggersby. You could very easily run Hyper Beam. I decided I wanted Fire Punch just to have a bit of a get out of jail free card if I get stuck against something like a Skarmory or against an Ice type like an Abomasnow. I'm going to continue to farm up here, going for the Fire Punch, but I do lose charge attack priority. They need a Brave Bird to KO, and they go for it. Brave Bird picks up the knockout. I'm going for the farm down with the Zapdos. I leave with 100 energy. In comes the Cresselia, and I'm firing off the Thunderbolt. Cresselia, an extremely bulky Pokemon, but even so, Shadow Zapdos hits incredibly hard. I'm going to farm up past the Thunderbolt, and I'm baiting with the Drill Peck. I need to get the shield here. Drill Peck gets the shield. Shadow Zapdos gets to the Thunderbolt as they reach the back-to-back charge moves. Thunderbolt picks up the knockout, and Shadow Zapdos sweeps the endgame. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Diggersby into Vigoroth. I'm going to save switch into Poliwrath. My opponent sends in Mantine. Now this team, as you may have noticed, is very, very weak to water flying types like Mantine and Pelipper. My thought with the team was I was honestly more worried about Charjabug than I was about the water flyers. I wanted to set it up where the Poliwrath could potentially bait out a Charjabug. Diggersby, of course, can handle Charjabug no problem, and that sets up Zapdos to sweep. But it does mean that going up against water flying types, if they're not aligned against the Zapdos, could make things very difficult. I'm going to send in the Diggersby. They're going to be firing off energy here, and that's perfectly fine by me. They go for that debuffed Ice Beam. That's not going to do a whole lot of damage. They're going for another move. Again, perfectly fine by me. I'm just going to look for a farm down here and then just fire off a Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will do a nice amount of damage to the Vigoroth here. Scorching Sands into the Vigoroth does get shielded. I continue to farm up. Opponent is firing off energy. I accidentally overtapped there due to a little bit of lag. They go for the Body Slam, and Body Slam will pick up the knockout. And now it's all up to Shadow Zapdos. I continue to farm up with the Zapdos. I'm firing off the Drill Peck here. Let's see what the opponent wants to do. Drill Peck does get shielded. It seems like they're weak in the back, so they are going to be firing off a move, and I'm shielding everything here. Shadow Zapdos is extremely frail, but my goodness, it has a terrifying damage output. I'm going to look to overfarm here and watch for a potential catch. Opponent goes for the catch. There we go. In comes the Toxapex. Toxapex now on 2 poison jabs. They get to the move in 8. So I can safely throw 6 Thunder Shocks here, and that's going to allow me to make the back-to-back Drill Pecks on charge attack priority. Shadow Zapdos able to win CMP, pick up the knockout with the Drill Peck, and we have Drill Peck number 2 loaded. Again, this Pokemon is so frail, but with energy management, it is absolutely insanely strong. We see a Core Breaker again in the next match as I lead Diggersby into Mantine. This is definitely a situation where having Hyper Beam would be quite nice, as Mantine is a pretty big problem spot for this team. They go for the Ice Beam, that does quite a lot of damage. I decide to bank a bunch of energy and send in the Poliwrath. I am completely core broken here. Both Diggersby and the Poliwrath struggle quite a bit versus the Mantine, but I'm hoping that the energy that I stored on Diggersby will be useful later on. I'm going to fire off the Icy Wind. That's going to be no shielded by my opponent. And now that they're debuffed, I can tank this Aerial Ace a lot more comfortably than I typically would. I'm going to continue to farm up here with the Poliwrath. Poliwrath is able to make it to another Icy Wind. This Icy Wind is going to be getting them low, so the opponent is going to commit the shield. They are double debuffed, and I'm able to get a farm down. I'm going to send in the Zapdos. Opponent accidentally overfarms, and they get knocked out by super effective Thunder Shocks. They send in a Gligar, and Gligar is not a Pokemon that you want to send into a Zapdos, as Gligar's energy is completely walled here. As you can see though, Shadow Zapdos is very, very frail, so a resistant Aerial Ace is still going to do quite a lot of damage, and in the back, oh my, it's Skarmory. Zapdos running out of HP. Can I make it to 2 Thunderbolts here? Going for Thunderbolt number 1, that's going to be shielded up by that Skarmory. The Shadow Zapdos, 1457 CP, but it's the only one I have. Survives on 1 HP, picks up the knockout, back in comes the Gligar, and I have stored energy on the Diggersby from earlier. I'm just going to start spamming out these Fire Punches. I'm going for yet another Fire Punch into the Gligar. This Fire Punch is going to be getting them very low, and it should get them into a range where 1 quick attack can take the win. Tough lead in the next match. Diggersby into Whiscash. I'm going to save switch into Poliwrath. My opponent is going to respond with Tentacruel. Tentacruel, definitely not an amazing spot for me to be in here as the Poliwrath, as my energy is completely walled. I go for the Icy Wind, because this way I can get the guaranteed debuff. Opponent is going to go for the Scald, and they do get the 50% chance at an attack drop. I'm now going to fire off a Scald. I don't really have an amazing way of flipping this. My play here is basically just to soft lose this. Unfortunately, I do not get the debuff, and then go for farm on the Diggersby. My opponent is going to be able to make a Scald versus the Diggersby, so I'm just going to tank that, save some energy on the Diggersby, and then go for an energy advantage on the Shadow Zapdos. Again, energy advantage on the Shadow Zapdos is just absurdly strong in a meta where something like Bastiodon has been banned. They send in the Whiscash. I'm farming up, and I'm firing off the Drill Peck. I'm expecting my opponent to shield and try and fish for a Scald debuff. They actually no-shield the first, and that's very, very good for me. Because now, even if they get the debuff, I should still be able to knock out with the Drill Peck. They bait with a Mud Bomb, understanding that I'm a Shadow Zapdos, so I shield everything there. So they're able to save some energy, but of course, going for a Mud Bomb, you don't have a chance of going for a debuff. I'm going to be double shielding the Zapdos here. They go for the Scald. Do they get the debuff? Yes, they do. I'm farming up with the Zapdos, and I'm at the back-to-back moves here. Okay, this should be doable. Drill Peck gets the shield. It's charge attack priority, but Zapdos keeps winning those CMV ties. Debuff Drill Peck picks up the knockout. In the back, it's Skarmory, and I was not kidding. This thing is just too deadly as a sweeper. We're able to make it to this Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt gets the knockout onto the Skarmory, and we take the game. Speaking of Skarmory, we've got it on the lead in the next match. I'm going to save switch into the Poliwrath, and the opponent is going to counter switch with a Shadow Dragonair. This is perfectly fine for me. I'm going to be firing off the Icy Wind. Opponent is going to commit the shield. Here, what I should do is I should shield once, because even if I lose switch, I want to try and be able to get both shields from the opponent, but I thought that I could live it and get to the move. I don't know if lag impacted me not being able to get to that move. There was a bit of a stutter, but either way, in that situation, I should go for either switch advantage or getting both shields. Because if I get the 1-0 shield situation, Shadow Zapdos is just absurdly strong. I'm going to be able to get the quick attack farm down here. What does the opponent have in the back? They send in the Skarmory. I send in the Zapdos in the back. It's Arctibax, and here's where them still having a shield means they're going to win this game. Had I played for just getting their final shield, then I could have just knocked out here. The Skarmory would not be able to Steel Wing down, and I should be in a pretty good spot to win the game. Whereas unfortunately, they still have a shield. Now I can send in the Diggersby, but they can just go for Icy Winds. So this is definitely a bit of a tough comp here, but I definitely could have played it better, and I think I could have won if I played it better as well. I'm going to fire off the Fire Punch. That's just not going to KO after the debuff. I get the farm down, but at -1, these Fire Punches are just going to do laughable damage to the Skarmory. I'm still hoping against hope, but look at that damage. That just does nothing. So I definitely wanted to include this game in here because it was a game that I lost, but I feel like if I played it better, I could have had a chance to win. Okay, Diggersby into Skarmory. We are going to be seeing a lot of Skarmory in this meta. That is for sure. Skarmory is very, very strong. They're staying into the Poliwrath switching, so I'm just going to fire off this Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to be no shielded. They're going to bank energy here. Interesting. They could have still gone for a debuff Brave Bird and forced a shield, but they decide to bank energy and they send in a Quagsire. I'm a bit surprised surprised to not see a Whiscash here, as Whiscash is just strictly better than Quag, but I'm able to get a debuff on Quag, so now, even when they fire off energy here, that Mud Bomb is not going to be too threatening. I go for the Icy Wind. I do lose charge attack priority there. Quag goes for the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb not going to be enough to KO. The debuffs from Icy Wind definitely very clutch in this matchup. The Icy Wind is going to pick up the knockout here. Opponent is going to send in a Shadow Swampert. Oh boy, this is looking tough. I'm going to send in the Diggersby. Diggersby can tank one, so I am going to let this through, as I know I can live a Hydro. Hydro definitely survivable here. Opponent combo plays with the Skarmory, but this is actually fine for me. This just sets up a win con. I'm actually in a pretty good spot now where I can get a ton of energy on the Zapdos. Had the opponent leveraged the Swampert and stayed in, this would have been a lot trickier of a fight. But even though they go for a Brave Bird to deny farm, I just get way too much energy on Zapdos. And again, Zapdos up energy is just absurd in this meta. Drill Peck is shielded. I'm already at another Drill Peck, and Drill Peck will very easily KO from here. We saw it KO'd from half on a Whiscash, which is way bulkier than a Shadow Swampert. Swampert is going to be firing off a Hydro. I can commit the shield. And again, the decision to switch lock the Skarmory ends up being pivotal in this game, as Zapdos, at the cost of a shield, gets so much energy, and again, just gets to sweep the end game. Hopping into the next match, leading Diggersby into Quagsire. This is another situation where for the opponent, Whiscash would definitely be preferable. So if you're looking for a Mud Boy in this format, I would definitely recommend Whiscash, as the ability to hit something like a Diggersby with Scald for super effective damage and a 50% chance at a debuff is extremely worthwhile. I'm continuing to farm up with the Diggersby, going for the Scorching Sands, but the opponent makes a beautiful catch as they catch the Scorching Sands onto Gligar. The good news is I have Shadow Zapdos, and Shadow Zapdos is a complete wall to energy from Gligar. Gligar can go for the Aerial Ace, they can go for the Dig, it's all going to be single resisted. So I can no shield here. Again, it's going to do quite a bit of damage because it's a Shadow Zapdos, and mine is terrible, terrible IVs. It's got to be one of the worst ranked Zapdoses you could possibly have, but it's still putting in quite a bit of work. My opponent is going to commit the shield, and they try for the farm down, and I'm able to grab either both shields or switch advantage. Opponent forced a double shield to Gligar, and now I can just send in the Diggersby to absorb energy here. They go for the Dig. Dig will do a decent amount of damage. They're firing off more energy here, and I'm deciding, you know what? I'm leaving it all up to Polly. I continue to farm. There's a little bit of lag, but I'm able to hang on and make it to the Fire Punch. Fire Punch will pick up the knockout. In the back, it's Skarmory, and 2-shield Poliwrath is going to be enough to get me this win. Skarmory can fire off a Sky Attack, but with 2 shields to hide behind, this is a very uncomfortable matchup for Skarmory. Opponent is going to send in the Quagsire. They have energy, but that's okay by me. They fire off the Mud Bomb. I can tank that, and now I can go for the Scald. The Scald will be able to pick up the knockout on the Quagsire, and then all that's left is the Skarm. And again, Skarmory, if it can get shields down, it can handle Poliwrath, but if Poly has shields to hide behind, Steel Wing being resisted means Skarmory is in quite a bit of trouble, and Poliwrath takes the win. Moving into the next match, picking up an amazing lead, Diggersby into Charjabug. Opponent is going to save switch into a Hex Jellicent, so they are completely core broken by the Diggersby. I'm firing off the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands does get the attack drop, making a good matchup even better. They can fire off super effective Surfs here, but with that debuff already in place, Diggersby is going to be tanking charge moves for days. I'm firing off yet another Scorching Sands. Opponent let the first one through, they're going to let the second one through as well, and a bit of debuff luck goes my way as I'm able to get a second debuff onto the Jelly. They go for the Surf, that just does absolutely nothing. I'm going to be firing off the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to be shielded by my opponent. This time I do not get the debuff. With 2 debuffs, I should be able to survive here, so I'm going to let this through. Although, I have let my Diggersby get a little too low, and that's problematic considering that they have a Charjabug, and my backline is very weak to Charjabug. I'm able to get the knockout with the Fire Punch. Is my opponent going to be sending back in the Charjabug? Yes, Charjabug looking for the Volt Switch, farm down. I make it to the Scorching Sands. I decide to go for the super effective Fire Punch. Scorching Sands may have been the play. Also, I can fish for a debuff there. But I figured super effective damage, I may as well go for it. I'm going to send in the Poly because I know that I can take a discharge. I'm able to hang on. Opponent probably just going to go for X Scissors now since I'm so low. So in hindsight, maybe I should have shielded the discharge to make them go for the more expensive move. But I am able to make it to the Icy Wind, and Icy Wind will of course grab a shield and a debuff. I send in the Zapdos. A discharge would do a decent amount of damage, so I am going to shield it. They bait with an X Scissor. In the back, it's Kofagrigus. Kofagrigus now has enough energy for a Shadow Ball. A Thunderbolt will not KO, so I will have to instead go for the double Drill Peck, winning Charge Attack priority, and this will be enough to pick up the knockout. Am I going to be able to outpace the Charjabug here? The answer is no. I fall just short, and they're going to be able to pick up a knockout with the X-Scissor. This is going to be close. Can I survive a Volt Switch? The answer is yes, and the game ends in a tie. Hopping into the final match, seeing a lot of Mud Boys leading Diggersby into Shadow Swampert. I'm farming up with the Poliwrath. If they're not going to switch, I'm going to go for the Icy Wind. This way, they're going to feel like they have to switch out, and they do. In comes Pidgeot, but this is a pretty nice matchup for Poliwrath. Poliwrath going to be able to fire off the Icy Wind here. Icy Wind gets no-shielded by my opponent, and at this point, I'm fine with just letting this go. Even if they Brave Bird me, that's okay. But they end up going for a Feather Dance, and watch this. Poliwrath is absolutely disgusting, getting the farm down there. I do get to leave with energy, but unfortunately, I am just short of a move, so I don't get my Scald. I'm going to send in the Zapdos. I know, of course, that the Swampert has a massive amount of energy, so I think I'm just going to no-shield this Claw. Granted, it still does so much damage, but I know that that Swampert has a ton of energy, so I am going to use my shields on the Hydro Cannons. I'm farming up, and I'm going for this Drill Peck on Charge Attack priority. This Drill Peck is going to be shielded up by the opponent. I know that they're going to be 5 Mud Shots away from their next move, so I can throw 5 Thunder Shocks, and then again just play to Charge Attack priority. I'm farming up with the Zapdos, and again, winning CMP. This Drill Peck is going to be able to knock out. The question is, can I survive the fast moves from the Charizard? No, I faint with the Drill Peck. The good news is this is still winning for me. A better IV Zapdos probably could have held on there and made it to a move. Again, I have one of the worst possible IV combinations for a Great League Zapdos, and still, it was putting in a tremendous amount of work. Overall, the fact that we don't have to deal with stuff like Lantern and Bastiodon, I would say is a definite plus and allows something like Shadow Zapdos that unfortunately kind of gets bullied in Open Great League to have a niche. And if you're able to bait out the Charjabug, then this thing, especially if you can give it a shield or an energy advantage, just goes absolutely crazy, sweeping teams in the back. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.